everybody. So those of you in the online, you can keep writing your questions. I'll be taking them up as and when it is possible. How are you? Good. The idea today is, it is two ways. One is, some of you who have already started studying Anthro, and some who are in the process of deciding when I should start, what I should, what's the process kind of a thing. Certain things I might have discussed with you in the class in a general way, but then in a specific format I wanted to present this. One question which I generally see among students who come to decide about their time schedule, schedule, etc., is what should be the ideal time I should give for the optional subject. Now, when we say ideal time, for some people, I think 4 months might have looked too much. Or, about 4 months, లేదా అంతేనా 4 months ఏనా అనిపించిందా? ఎంతైతే మాకేంటి అన్న. మీ పేరు నాన్న? Monesh. How much time you thought you can give? 4 months. 4 months for one go. One go meaning? Okay. So, for you, does this 4 months include attending your course, parallelly studying? So, this is here people have several questions like, when I should start preparing. Because I see two types of students. I mean, you always have these, that is me who is in the yoga, and these are you thinking. Those are the timekeepers, whatsoever. I mean, this is very much important. When you start to prepare for something, you have to decide what time I should be able to give. And I know there would be many hiccups in between, many ifs and buts will be there. You might have thought of, completing a good chunk on a daily basis, but then you understand that every day you are falling short of your target. Did it happen to you? Because you must have tried writing a plan. It's not simply a perspective plan, like, a broader thing, like this month I would want to finish these chapters. Then students generally, you come to have a very micro planner, like, ye cheez karna hai, this chapter, this question kind of a thing. And after a week's time, you will understand that what you scheduled for 1 week, you could not even do for 2 days. Maybe the time you were not able to give. Second thing is because there is something called an inertia. Whenever we start to plan and execute things in the initial days, you are not supposed to put a lot of load. Because initial adjustment processes would require some bit of leisure, some bit of time. But what we generally try to do is, we put a lot of load right from the beginning. We are highly ambitious and we try to do that, and that is where it is going to be a problem. Second thing is, when we have several things coming together, two major questions we are actually trying to understand. How exactly I am going to prepare? Should I prepare after the course? Some students are there, first you finish your classes, ma'am, then I'll start studying. Irrespective whether you are doing general studies or optional subject, I see students, पहले आप खत्म कर दो, फिर मैं start करूँगा. This is very dangerous. Because even if the course runs into about 4 months, 6 months, whatsoever, if you are not on a daily basis visiting, at the end of the program, everything is vaporized. There is nothing left. So constantly being in touch with what you have written is very important. And hence the second one, during the course, preparing during the course is something that is very essential. So my focus in today's class is going to be on that, and from there I will take to what all things have to be connected, while you are writing a note, how exactly you have to, because students keep asking, even now, some of you who are already doing the course, you keep asking, ma'am, I'm not able to understand whether I should take this fact, whether I should write this in the notes, or should I leave it while you are explaining in the class, kind of. So basically for that. So many times we spoke about this individually with you as a group and as in the classroom also, that how much time ideally we have to give on a daily basis. General time that we say, and I reiterate the fact, that is your classroom time and your personal time should almost match. In fact, a personal time should be a little more. Because what one is missing in the preparation is students are not spending time on thinking. Either you are totally there with the book, constantly reading or memorizing. Very few of you might be picking up the act of writing. But then this processing of information between reading and writing, the kind of a processing that is actually not happening. Okay. So that calls for time. Maybe whenever you are reading a topic, a half an hour you have read a topic, give a couple of minutes of time, try to recall what you have done, and then try to think of applying to a particular situation, or maybe try to be a little innovative there. Maybe you can draw a picture, how exactly I can innovate a picture, because at the end of the day your personal innovation is something that is really appreciated by the examiner. This you will have to see. Concept and all, say you are taking up any concept from Indian society, for example, Sanskritization is there. It is already given, already explained by people, examples are already given by the thinkers. You might wonder what new I will do. I mean, that is where you may perhaps come up with some kind of a suggestion of, maybe I can write a table on in which region what kind of societies he studied and where exactly the controversies are, kind of things. I will talk to you, Subhashish. अभी इसके बारे में बात करेंगे, about your engineering background and all, हम बात करेंगे, don't worry. ठीक है. So the minimum time that you should be giving is what you might have spent in the classroom. Especially my focus is with the students who are already doing the program, thinking of doing the program, because I am already doing some other study, जैसा कि general studies का भी study चल रहा है, या फिर some other job I am into, some other course I am into. So whether I will be able to give this kind of an attention or not. Sir, one thing is, no time is early in your preparation, and most often I found in the students in general, even in our employees I have seen, generally, I am not trying to generalize you whole lot as a group, but then I think we perform better in times of crisis. Are you that kind of a person? There is a deadline, especially after the software industry and your jobs in software industry. Unless there is a deadline, you don't perform, kind of a thing. जब तक deadline नहीं आ जाता, till the time when there is no sword at your throat, there is no energy, or there is no motion there, no motivation there. So, some of the students who actually come up and asking, 2024 में मैं करूँगा, 2023 may be too early for me. See, in a perfect way if you are going, and then in a relaxed way if you are doing with that 1.5 years of schedule, I totally agree with that. But यहाँ से, if at all 11 or 10 months of time is there for you, I generally suggest that prepare as if you are going to write the exam in 2023 alone. Otherwise, you will not get that kind of a motive. 2024 looks very far away for us. It's like a vision 2024. And we have long drawn perspective plans to do. So let us have a plan a little closer to us, and with an orientation that we might be appearing exam that year. Only then we will be in a position to give whatever muscle is required for that preparation. So if at all that is the question, you keep a target of 23 only. ये एक था. Second thing is, when I am doing several other things, how exactly I am going to balance this? Sir, whatever courses that you are doing, if at all you are doing for UPSC, you always have this formula. For 1 hour of classroom or any kind of a test that you are writing, double the amount for your personal time. अगर 1 घंटे का आपको टेस्ट लिखना है, maybe 2 to 3 hours you spend on that particular topic to write the test, or 1 hour class you have attended, not less than 2 hours you try to spend, including your writing. ठीक है, this is one. And I know that time तो limited ही है. Maximum I think you will be able to put across 12 hours including your class, 12 hours, and it looks to be less ambitious for me because 12 और घंटे बच गए ना. What will we do with that 12 long hours? Maybe 6 hours you sleep, 6 hours you sleep, 8 hours you sleep, 8 hours you sleep. I mean, health is also important, 8 hours. Dreams are also important. Unless otherwise you sleep, you can't dream. If you don't dream, you can't have targets also in life. So dreaming के लिए भी time चाहिए. तो ठीक है, 8 घंटा सो जाओ. But then I think 8 hours is slightly on a higher side. Maybe 6.5, 7 तक उसको cut करो. उसमें half hour maybe in between the sessions you can have for a nap, quick nap. कुछ लोगों में वो होता है कि 10 मिनट का पक्का nap लेंगे. जैसा कि when you are taking a break, it's like switch on, 10 minutes you sleep, switch off, you get up, kind of a thing. You belong to that category. Exactly 10 minutes or 15 minutes, whatever you want, without your alarm actually. But some of us are there. You are into perfect shavasana, even Niyama cannot wake you up. So you will have to see if at all you belong to that category of a person. Maybe midday naps you can avoid, but otherwise at a single stretch 6 to 7 hours. बाकी 5 जो भी hours बचे हैं, try to see where exactly we are losing our time. I was telling the other day to a student, we might lose time in the half an hours that we do. Most often we do things in half an hour, meaning we have breakfast for half an hour, we have a coffee for half an hour, we pick up a call for half an hour. I mean, everything for that matter is not less than half an hour. Where it is not really necessary, maybe perhaps we can cut short that time and see to it that you squeeze in an hour or two from here and there. See, I don't go by number of hours actually, but then I am concerned because the kind of volume that you will have to cover, that requires time. So humanly, a bare minimum time has to be given, and whatever time you are giving, that has to be sustainable. That is also very important. That is the reason why weekends revision sessions are very important. Okay. Now, let me take you through. My focus is always on writing. There are several things before you actually write. I mean, one very basic thing is what exactly is the content that I will have to study. So many times I told the students to learn the content, to keep watching the content, so that and keep saying out the words, so that you get attached to it, you can recognize those words. Sometimes what happens is students do not even make out from which chapter the topic might have come. So that is very pathetic actually. This I am saying because I am evaluating certain scripts. अभी mains करीब में है तो that is going to be very difficult. From which chapter a particular topic is asked, if you are not aware of that, I mean, there cannot be more unpardonable sin than that. At least I felt happy that they knew that they're writing anthropology paper. I didn't say anything on that. Content. And then terminologies. You might have seen, some of you who are new, I mean, who have already started studying the subject, you might have, seen the terminologies. And when you see the terminologies, some of them might look to be very, very absurd, or very new kind of things. You may not be able to pronounce also. And if that is the kind of situation, it is going to be difficult. And here, that's where a friend of ours is writing, having come from an engineering background, he says, I have absolutely no idea on the terminologies, the syllabus. So how can I convince myself to take up this optional? So for convincing, maybe I don't want to convince rather. Yeah, but he says, how can I convince myself? This has been said many times earlier also. In various meetings and workshops, I said this, that your optional subject is not less than an accident. Your optional subject choice is something like you choosing your mate for the lifetime. And while you are choosing, you have to be really, really cautious about it. Cautious from all the ways, When you're choosing a mate, you see so many things, right? Compatibility, whether you're going to be compatible or not, whether your background and their background would suit or not. Here he's from engineering, most of you are from engineering. And then we are talking about anthropology. Both are so different from one another. Can the compatibility remain? And then is it going to be a long-lasting relationship, or within a few months, or within a few days I would want to say no, nothing doing. I am really not comfortable with you and I go. And all the more so, economics are very important, whether by choosing the subject I will be able to get marks or not. Ultimately that's what you're looking at. And whether the Purohit you find is good, I mean the teacher who is getting the marriage done, is the teacher good enough to explain things to you, communicate things to you, and supervising whether you are writing, not writing, scolding, abusing, whatever, I mean kind of. So all this goes into the picture. But sir, Mr. Das, what I can say is, unless otherwise you are taking your own engineering subject, say you are coming from mechanical engineering whatsoever. If you are not taking that particular subject, any other subject is a new subject for you. You do not know Telugu, but here I am using Era Aitine Kada. So any stone is okay to break our head. I mean that's how the translation goes, though it's a weird kind of a translation. So when you want to break your head, you need a stone. Whatever stone you find, you do that. So you have no choice. I mean you have to go for some optional subject. And out of them, you actually go in for the best that you can come across. I mean, how you come across the best, God knows. Because you see, I mean, I totally compare it with matchmaking, sir. Somebody would get a match to you, they would say prices about the boy, the girl, and then their family, their various progressive things. Based on that, you would find interesting. You go and meet marriage looks. I mean, you go and meet the girl, meet the boy. This is what is happening now, trying to meet the subject. And then if the subject looks interesting, then you think that, okay, let us have a journey for some more time, 2 or 3 meetings more. And then you try to spend more time looking into the old question papers, looking into whether I can be comfortable with the terminologies and things like that. Then you actually take a decision. I think I am very bad at propagating, saying that, see, this is the best kind of a thing. Any optional is the best in its own way. It's only that your compatibility matters. And if you have decided that, see, I want to be with this particular subject, I will be there to help you out. The thing is, here, in every subject you would have high scores. Every subject would have high scores. But what we find in this subject is, in that bracket of scores that have a potential of taking the student to the interview and to the subject, there are many students. I mean, that is the beautiful thing. So if you think that if at all I am crossing 280, I will get a call for the interview, there is a promise. If I cross 300, I would find myself in the list of selected students. You have a promise there. So there is that bracket of marks which can be secured with the kind of effort that an average student can put, knowing the basic rules, etc. That kind of a promise is there. I think, అంతే కదా, ఏమంత అనుకోకుండా హ్యాపీగా ఉండడమే కదా జీవితంలో కావాల్సింది. సో ఇట్స్ యాజ్ సింపుల్ యాజ్ ఇట్ ఇస్. Harun Rashid, if you have a problem with handwriting and language, please talk to me. We will see. I'll try to guide accordingly. So yeah, and then learning the concepts. I was telling Mr. Das that terminologies are something that you will have to really learn. Once you learn the terminologies, exactly understanding the concept, when you understand the concept, that has to be applied in various contexts. So that is going to be one other thing that I'm going to focus today. And internalizing is something like, it's not simply memorizing, a feeling that you have understood. Last, I think 10-15 days you were in the class, you got a feel that you understood something. నీకు ఎప్పుడు డౌటే నా మీద లేదా? Because you see, from the face we can actually read out whether you have a confidence in the speaker or you have some kind of a doubt. ఏం డౌట్ ఉంది? ఏం లేదా? You have a feeling that you learned something or you are learning something. I hope it is not a mechanical exercise that you are walking into the class and doing whatever writing and then going back. The other day somebody was saying that, previously I wrote the exam by myself. I was trying to write, he had written the main exam, 1, 2, 3, 4 pointers he used to write. So after the classes he was saying, I never understood earlier that it has to be brought in this particular manner. Like there has to be an explanation. There has to be a link with some other concept also. So if at all you are reading something that gives under every topic 7 or 10 points, 10 marks के लिए 10 points. जैसे आप स्कूल में करते थे ना, 10 marks के लिए 10 points. So student teacher will count 10 points. आपको 10 marks मिले, kind of a thing. It is not that way. And some of us, I told you, whoever it was, the moment you are opening the answer, you are starting with 1, 2, 3, 4 points. Because maybe we are used to that. Even the introductory statements, we are starting with number 1 point. So examiner, and it is not one single question. Every answer is like that. 1 to 10, 1 to 10 kind of. That looks very absurd. Even if you are doing it for one single question also, it's not the way it has to be written. You have to have a mix. People keep asking whether I should write in pointers, paragraphs, etc. It should be a healthy mix. Sometimes what would happen based on the kind of question. Say there is a question comparing ape and human anatomy. When you are trying to compare, maybe there can be a table, there can be point-wise writing, and there is some kind of a why exactly that comparison is coming in the introductory remarks you can do. And finally in the conclusion, are you trying to say that because of all these similarities and differences, maybe some common ancestor was there who could have appeared at such point of time in the past, kind of thing. So what is happening there? When you are trying to frame an answer, that answer paper should be there in front of you. It should be there in your mind. Let's see, this is going to be my introductory paragraph where I am going to write 3 or 4 lines, and then I have 6, 7 points to offer. then I have some comparative remarks I have to make, and which all thinkers I am going to write. These things should be there just in front of you. So it's like, when you're generating an answer, you are seeing in your own mind and copying. You get my point? I mean, that is how your internalization has to go. And there is no shortcut, sir. You will have to write, this is one other question: when exactly I should start my test, when exactly I should start trying an effort, giving an effort to write. Because most of the students think that in bits and pieces, when we are learning in the beginning, we are not happy with our own answers. I was telling the other day that if you're not happy with yourself, it is good. You would give yourself the time to improve. Some questions, I'll keep taking them. What role current affairs plays and how effective it is in answer writing? Maybe I'll keep answering them. When we say current affairs in the subject, few of you already know, but let me say this. It is of two types. One is any new development in the field. Any new development in the field, meaning if any new concept had come, something like new terminologies are introduced, any kind of new research methods have come. So something that did not happen earlier is happening now. So maybe some kind of a new field discovery had come. So this whole thing is basically where new content is added to the discipline. This forms one current affairs. Second thing is, there may not be a content change. There may not be a content change, but maybe because of some event. So, Indian Anthropological Congress, if at all it had met, in every Indian Anthropological Congress, some kind of memorial lectures happen. Say Iravati Karve Memorial Lectures, S. Dubey Memorial Lectures, they commemorate the services of one particular anthropologist in a big way. These memorial lectures would definitely amount to a question in the exam. Similarly, I mean, any other event, this is only one example I am trying to give. Or any event had completed a decade or a silver jubilee, golden jubilee, whatever, platinum jubilee kind of things. So these also amount to a question in the exam, direct or indirect ways. So Neanderthal man, if he has crossed about 175 years of discovery, there should be a question there. Or any obituaries, some writer, some field worker, anthropologist passed away, definitely there has to be a question in the exam. And then we have other things such as any publications. Any publications, any new book has come, or an article published, things like that. these will actually help the student in understanding what could be the current affairs. I hope I answered the question. Anjali Singh, she says, where should I start anthropology come from so that we can understand anthropology in a systematic manner? Ma'am, it is like, we can start from anywhere, any segments for that matter. So on that I will take you to the other questions, other things that I wanted to talk about. We'll start with the sources and then I will approach. The problem with the contemporary generations is too much of content in the market. For everything there is more than necessary content. And we are generally gluttonous. Our tummy never is full. I mean, we are always gluttonous. We try to purchase every other thing that is there in the market. But one thing you have to understand is, if you are picking up 4 different sources, each of them might have been written in a different spirit. And I also have seen students की materials जमा के रखेंगे, मतलब खोल के एक chapter इधर है, एक sentence इधर से लिखा है, एक इधर से लिखा, because you want content. When you are doing that, the interconnection between statements is not there, between paragraph and paragraph is not there. So there is a bumpy kind of a road. Examiner should feel that smoothness in reading. There has to be a story, there has to be a proper screenplay to give in your answer. On the other hand, every statement is like, I was telling this to a student. Suppose I am putting hand in the middle of your answer. There are some statements here, some here. If I am removing one statement there should be a disconnect. I should feel that, okay, something is missing. Even if I do number of times, if I don't feel that, it means that the proper understanding is not there, proper connect is not there in what you are trying to communicate. So the ideal thing will be, you keep your source limited. You keep your source limited to one. Try to understand the whole subject from one source. When I am saying one source, it is the unfortunate or fortunate thing with UPSC anthropology is, you don't have the entire subject in one single book. You have to go through a number of books to get to the content. Understanding this fact. So for one particular topic, you don't try to juggle through many books. You try to depend on one source, so that you have to give time to the thinker. The fellow had spent a lot of time in research, in writing. You give the necessary attention to the writer. Try to understand what he is up to, and then you can shift to something else. Now, when it comes to our classroom program, when we talk about the sources, I mean, this is where I am also trying to help some of you with your questions. The primary source that you depend on is your class note. You depend on your class note, your own class note, not your neighbor's class note. That you will have to be clear. I write my own notes. I am not going to depend on the charity of the neighbor. Now here there are 2 things. One, we go on explaining 1,000 things. And while I am explaining something, you ask a question, I explain something else also. So it's like wheels within wheels. One topic we are starting, we are doing something else, and then we are coming back to the topic and trying to continue there. This you should get used to. Otherwise, people would stop asking questions, people would stop thinking, अच्छा यहाँ तक ही पढ़ा रहे अभी, इसी के बारे में सोचना है. Don't be that kind of a thinking tight kind of. Be a let loose. Try to think in every dimension. Try to ask questions. Get as much of an explanation as possible. There's no harm about it. Now, in this explanation, when you are trying to take the running note, I am coming to the exact question which some of you have asked. What I should be focusing at? One is, if I am giving any specific definitions, if I am talking about any thinkers, I am giving any fields or maybe any groups studied by people, any kind of literature I am mentioning, any other examples, cases. When we are explaining these, see, I might have been dealing with some XYZ topic. When I am doing with XYZ topic, say for example, I am talking about a caste mobility. So when I am explaining caste mobility, there can be so many ways in which a caste can be mobile. It may be through occupation shift, it may be through communication networks or social media impacting, people traveling to the other places, migrating, people listening to the thinkers, people listening to the political leaders, getting inspired. I mean, or maybe perhaps people trying to use the governmental schemes, getting into mainstream education, and so many things are happening. When we are singling out all of them, on each of them there would be quite a long discussion. And sometimes it feels like, okay, are we going far from what we have started? But no, it would be within that ambit only. And once this is done, so you don't try to neglect any of these things. Don't be choosy in taking information in the class from the explanation. Then anyway, when you are taking a proper dictation, you will have things in a systematic way. And when we are writing a dictation, I was mentioning yesterday, you try to write it completely. Complete your note then and there itself. Do not try to leave blanks. There are no fill in the blanks questions for us. You complete the whole thing and try to write whatever small pictures that we are making in the class. They will also add to your presentation and understanding. This is very, very important as far as your sources are concerned. कुछ एक आध क्वेश्चन देखते हैं. Yeah, when it comes to, Mansa has a question, I am trying to answer that. When it comes to what should be the additional reference books, etc. I keep saying these things. एक तो आप अच्छा सा notes लिखो. जो आप लिखोगे वही आपके जिंदगी भर काम आएगा. Not simply for you, for your generations also. If they are writing with Anthro, they can use. No? Your partner can use, your younger brothers, sisters can use, your children can use, your grandchildren can use. मुझे कभी-कभी ना, I mean, తర్వాత editing లో తీసేసుకోండి. कभी-कभी अजीब लगता है, when I started in the early years of my teaching, there was this lady who was already into state government services. She was writing for the central government. So she appeared. I mean, whatever has to happen, unka result hua hai. And a couple of months ago, by that time itself she was married and having a kid. I was a kid, so I was taking class. So last few months back she called up and said, my son wants to appear for UPSC. I would want to bring him to you. Then I was actually, I don't know what I feel, I mean what I have to feel, whether I should feel proud that across the generations I'm teaching, or is it that थोड़ा सा अजीब लगा. for some time I was mum. Then I said, thank you so much, madam, please do come. करके. I thought I would share that. ठीक है. Judgment. Yeah, I know. Murali. అందుకే నిన్ను మురళి అంది. So, as far as your study materials are concerned, you stick to your notes first. और अगर आप text books भी देख रहे हो, along with the class notes, I told this to some of you, printed notes, printed books, whatever you are getting. I generally make it a point that there is a different kind of a content I give there and different I deliver in the class. In the sense that concept-wise understanding can come only in the classroom. वहाँ पर जो रहेगा आपको, that will be in addition to what you are doing here. And that would be a very classic, very formal, scholarly language in which the books would be written. And you need not have to write your answers in that scholarly language. You can write in simple language. It's only that don't try to choose synonym terms for actual terms that are given in the syllabus. And see to it that whenever you are defining, you define in the manner which the thinkers have written. This is also one question people ask. Is it necessary to memorize the definition? Why can't we write in our own words? The thing is, if at all you are trying to write in your own words, every time you will have to, it may look to be a mechanical exercise that I am memorizing. But I think memorizing is really necessary and important also. Memorizing gives you a clarity of thought. And you will not fumble for the words. You will not be searching for the words. As it is, if you are taking the statement from the thinker, you will not make a mistake. And you might say that I am not a memorizing type. We are not bothered. Because when you are sitting for this exam, you might think that there are certain things that are essential. You have to do them. आपको preliminary clear करना है, CSAT paper करना है. You cannot say that no, I don't like numbers, I hate them, मुझे चक्कर आता है number देख के, kind of a thing. It doesn't matter. You get a treatment and do whatever is necessary. But because you have to pass the exam. So अगर आपको 10, 15, 20 definitions memorize करना है exam के लिए, there is no shortcut. You will have to. Because when you try to write in your own words, there is a possibility that the spirit would be missing. The right words may be missing. And examiner also knows. If at all you are giving so and so person's definition, I look for these things in the definition. If they are not there, I'm not happy, kind of a stuff. Okay? और इसके अलावा whatever additional PDFs are necessary, I'll keep giving. Any new publication, new book, new journal, whatever damn thing that comes in the current things, which I think is very essential for my boys to know, I would try to. Because some of you may find it odd कि हमसे कोई किताबें खरीद क्यों नहीं लगवा रहे. You are always saying that यही पढ़ो, kind of a thing. And some of you might be thinking that you're missing something. क्योंकि बाकी जो जनता है market में, they might have bought by now 20-25 books in anthropology. आपका roommate है, flatmate है, neighbor है, जो anthropology पढ़ रहा है. 20-25 books he is already maintaining a library. People are coming, borrowing from him and studying. So ये चल रहा है उनका. दूसरा trading चल रहा है. But yourself, यही 2-4 किताबें हैं, मैं क्या करूं types. Don't worry. We are not here to get a collection of library. That is not necessary for us. What is necessary is collect the information there, collect the concept there. That is important rather than buying the books. Once you finish your syllabus, at that time if you think that I am still hungry, I still want to have something, then I will tell you what to read. And then I would suggest things which all others would not be reading, but you would read them because you already have reached one level of expertise. Okay? And that is about your content. I hope Mansa is happy. మీ ఆనందమే మాకు కావాలి. After completing which unit should we read archaeology, please? ठीक है, बताएंगे. And then anthropology is trending. So many aspirants choosing. How will it impact the upcoming exam? How to increase my writing speed? Good. And then how to and when to start writing. This Skywalker, I have already said about when to start writing, ma. I will tell you again. अजीब अजीब नाम लगाते हैं ना, interesting है. It's that is how we get exposed to new generations, basically. The way to start and what to focus, when exactly I should be starting archaeology kind of things. उससे पहले Samala Satyanarayan, she is asking about how to improve the speed of writing. Dictation ले लो class में, automatically the speed will increase. I mean, this is if at all you are there in the class, है ना? I'm sure you must be wondering at the speed at which you are writing. Are you? कई जनरेशन पहले शायद स्कूल में लिखे होंगे, 7th 8th 10th, तभी भी नहीं लिखे थे. ऐसे कैसे पास हो गए? Without writing in the school, I think school is the place where you write number of books. उस टाइम पे कोविड भी नहीं था कि आप without writing you might have passed. But I know, I mean, we really wonder at the speed at which we are writing. और आपको, I mean, वो संतुष्ट feeling आया होगा. कभी लिख के 1 पेज लिखा, 10 पेज लिखा, yeah, I'm satisfied. Did you feel that? I mean, एक आंसर लिखे, 2-4 पेज का आंसर लिखे, you are so contented, so happy, सारी दुनिया को बता रहे, you know, friend को फोटो निकाल के बता रहे, देखो मैंने आंसर. Did you do that in the recent past? Or the way you were writing? I saw this with my son. He is into 4th grade. आजकल उसका कर्सिव का बहुत ही भूत चढ़ा हुआ है. So he writes everything in the beautiful cursive thing. And even if I say you need not have to write such a big answer, he says, नहीं मामा मैं लिखूंगा बोले. And then after that he says, बहुत tasty लग रहा है. I mean, writing, you feel tasty, you feel contented. I think that is where you enjoy what you are studying. I was asking for that feeling. कि 1-2 घंटे पढ़ने के बाद, if you are still feeling energetic, or you think that बहुत हो गया अभी कुछ और subject पढ़ेंगे kind of a thing, if that is the kind of a feel you are getting, things are wrong at my end, not at your end. You should be feeling that, you know, ठीक है आज 6-7 hours है पढ़ने के, I will continue studying this subject only, बाकी का बाद में देख लेंगे. If that is the kind of a feel you are getting, I have succeeded. And all the more so, अभी तो आप starting of your preparation में हो, optional में. As days pass by, a day will come, surely, a day will come when you start thinking, अभी UPSC को क्या करना है? Let me do something in anthropology. और फिर आप आकर पूछने लगोगे कि मास्टर्स करना है, मुझे किधर ज्वाइन करना है, इंडिया में पढ़ूं, बाहर पढ़ूं, what jobs I have, do anthropologists have jobs, kind of things. जब ये होगा, and this is a tradition, in every batch that we have, not less than 5 to 10 people, they do courses in anthropology, and at least one would get absorbed into anthropology, and that is what is my objective. यहाँ का तो चलता रहेगा, in the sense that UPSC में result आएगा, marks आएंगे 340, 370, 400, 500, whatever, I mean kind of, ये selection तो चलता रहेगा. हमारा objective है university भरो, scholars लेकर आओ, kind of a thing. So that is my objective actually. You know? The reason why I succeed in the subject, I succeed in giving you those marks is because I tremendously love the subject. I love it so much. Like I love Telugu language, like I love Balakrishna, I like anthropology. I mean, these 3 are my pillars of life. Huh? Kind of. और नॉर्थ इंडियंस को भी हम बताएंगे, नो मूवीज बताएंगे तेलुगु वाले. राइटिंग स्पीड के बारे में बताया. तंजील रहमान, आप आई थिंक आवर टीम विल हेल्प यू आउट. कांत पान्यम सेज जय एंथ्रोपोलॉजी, जय जय एंथ्रोपोलॉजी. काइंड ऑफ this is incredible. People should be like this in the online discussions. No? focus areas and where to start, kind of. There are general trends, sir. One is you begin with thought. Starting with thought, in the last batch, I think I started with thought. I keep changing from which chapters I would be starting the subject. But wherever we start, we should be having some kind of a discussion on the basics to be done, along with the whatever content we would be doing. In fact, starting with thought is very, very courageous. In the beginning, students are really, generally are shaken, because for the first time they might be seeing some thinkers like that. You might be wondering, coming from fields like engineering and medicine, etc., ये चीज़ भी बात करते हैं लोग, kind of. Is it so important that you talk about it, kind of thing? How does it really matter? What kind of cloth you are using to wear, or what kind of food, how you are preparing the food? Is it really necessary? I mean, is it necessary that I travel to places to see some kind of scantily dressed people? I mean, kind of doubts you might be getting. And why under the sky somebody was interested in studying long distance island isolated society? Was he not happy at home? I mean, kind of questions you would get. But then we have people who left their comfort zones in the USA, in UK, etc., have traveled all the way to either Papua New Guinea or Africa, Southern Africa, etc., and spent their entire life there. Even in India, we have anthropologists who visited India, who came to India, and they got absorbed, they stayed here with their generations in this particular part of the world. I mean, this calls for people with different kind of manufacturing. So maybe anthropologists are the people who are designed and manufactured in a different way. That's a manufacturing error, kind of a thing. And that is the kind of a subject. And we also would see here that there is so much of irrationality, absurdity and irrationality. You must be wondering, is it necessary to study this for UPSC? I mean, if at all I asked you, did you see the souls any time? You must be wondering, ma'am, so crazy, why is she asking this, kind of a thing. But then when we are asking these questions, we are actually trying to touch those corners of the mind of the people which generally happen. लगता होगा ना कभी आप अकेले हो, घर में कोई नहीं है, and absolute silence is there. You suddenly feel a shadow moved. Did you feel it? Many times a shadow moves, and then you're wondering, what is there in this house? You start to go to sadhus, and you cautiously told your mother that I think there is something in this house. Immediately your mother arranges a mini yajna, and then she gives all kinds of things to tie everywhere in the house, all threads and everything. This is the reality, sir. How many people, irrespective of their educational status, are still doing these things? Maybe some of you also are doing. I do not know, but so what we are speaking in the class is something, a small paragraph from your life. We are not speaking of something that is so out of the blue. And we also study in anthropology one important entity in the creation, that is human, which or who is highly irrational. You understand? We are thoroughly irrational. We claim that we are scientific, we are rational, we are that and this, but then the bottom line is we are highly irrational. We are not sure why we have done what we have done. We are not really sure why we have taken anthropology. We did not have an answer. Why should we not take anthropology? But just because our neighboring girl was taking, I was also taking, so that I can kind of. Paisa bhi tha na? I don't know. So when we talk about things like, in the current batch, I started with Indian society. I may start with archaeology also. I may start with social anthropology. I may start with tribal anthropology. I may start with biological anthropology. But this would be a last choice, because if I'm directly jumping to biological anthropology without knowing the sociological significance, there is going to be a problem. You end up reading biology rather than reading anthropology. And I generally don't start with archaeology because lifeless things may not interest people so much. Archaeology calls for a bit of more commitment towards the subject, because you should be able to randomly, if I throw a stone at you, you should be able to generate a story on the stone. This stone might have been produced in the Neolithic times, and maybe this is the signature tool of so and so region of the world. The material from which the stone might have, the tool might have been made is this. The reason why they might be using this stone tool at that point of time, or which biological man was there, how did he look, how did he live, kind of things. Everything starting from one single, Baba, stones unnaya emanna? Stone tools unnaya? Chudu. Challe. If at all you might have seen the stones there earlier, you might have been thinking, ma'am ko jab gussa aayega to shayad use karti hogi class mein. But then suppose I use this kind of a stone based on the shape in which and what kind of cutting edges are there, where exactly is the handle, where I would actually hold it like a handle, and what exactly I might be doing with this edge, how thick it is, how bigger it would be, whether it can be called a particular kind of a hand axe, whether it could be called a cleaver or a chopper, kind of things. So based on the stone shape and size of it, some tools are there which we call microliths also. Some tools are microliths that fit in between the two fingers. So what people might be doing with a microlith, a small thinner tool, God knows what he was doing with that. But then if I show this kind of a tool, you should be able to generate a story that calls for a bit of understanding about various research methods. So generally I don't introduce with archaeology. You may perhaps start with these three, that would be much better. When it comes to tribes, application of socio-cultural anthropology is necessary, and hence tribe can take a little time to be introduced. But then one has to also remember that throughout this subject we go back to giving examples from tribal examples only, tribal anthropology only. So inherently, right from the first day when you start to study the subject, knowingly or unknowingly you start to collect the data from various tribal societies. So irrespective of where you have started, you are parallelly studying tribal anthropology also. Okay? But then when we talk about systematically studying, when we start to say society is there, thought is there, at that point of time we try to explain from that perspective. But as we go into the later topics, we try to bring back whatever we might have studied earlier, so that your answers are strengthened by comparison with the other things also. I'll get some more things. Is it necessary to have specialized diagrams? Yes, there is a definite necessity to have specialized diagrams. I will talk a bit on this. How do anthropology help in civil service? I will tell you. Firstly, it will give you service. Any advice for the beginners? I'll finish that question, again I'll forget. People try to compare. See, ये हमने ऑप्शनल लिया, तो GS में मेरे ये 50 मार्क आएंगे, 100 मार्क आएंगे, kind of. That is one way of helping. Society is there, or maybe various other disadvantaged sections are there, developmental initiatives are there, or things like left-wing extremism, security issues are there. In all this, there is some kind of a utility. We are not talking much of that. what this helps is to develop a perspective. Being an officer, when you're trained in a particular sense. The still Anglo-Saxon training that you are getting, it is mostly a top-down kind of a training. Things are changing from time to time. New papers are getting attached in the training programs, etc. But this particular subject helps you to give a window to the others. Why is it that every time I look from my own perspective, I can actually look from the other side also? That is where this helps. So in bureaucracy or in your personal life, it is like, those before and after pictures. Before treatment and after treatment, some pear-shaped fellow becoming kind of before and after kind of things. So same thing happens here also, before anthropology, after anthropology. If at all, nothing has changed in you. Nothing has changed in you. The change may be very trivial. Change may be speed of writing, if not anything else. If nothing has changed in you, meaning the course is waste for you. The idea is the subject gives you a different perspective to think, trying to understand from the other's point of view. That helps you. So you will have less of conflicts in your family, and you would have good relations with your friends. You can have several research methods which really help you out. Maybe you will have many ears to hear the other's pain, and hence you are winning people's hearts. So it's as simple as it is. It is not 320, 340 alone. It is so many other hearts also. As simple as it is. I think I mentioned what was asked. Trending. अब ये ट्रेंडिंग वाला हाँ, जैसा कि वो कहते हैं ना, खरबूजे को देखकर खरबूजा रंग पकड़ता है. So somebody has scored well, so you thought that I'll also take this subject. And one question people come up is, when so many people are taking, how is it that I will score better? I keep saying this in the class. Each one of you understand me differently. The spirit in which I must have spoken to you, I don't think everybody would understand in that sense. Because all of us, a byproduct of our background, the kind of terminology that I be using, the kind of examples that I might be using, you may not be able to appreciate based on your background. Is it not? So in that particular sense, in totality, you may not be. And second thing is, after all, when you come to the exam is not simply preparing in a question and answer format. We have to study a topic in an overall perspective. In that 360-degree perspective, you have to study whichever topic you are taking. Because in the exam, though he is giving this in the syllabus one small word, a term he is giving, when it comes to the exam, from that term, n number of variants he will pick up to ask a question from. So we actually prepare you for that 360-degree understanding of the topic. And that is the reason why in some of the topics you write 500 words. In some of the topics you even write 1,000 words. And in the exam you are not going to write the entire 1,000 words. So when we were seeing some of your scripts, I said this answer looks like write what you know about so and so. Every time it is not like that. You have to tailor make your answer to suit that particular question. And when you are trying to do that, each one of you are different from the others. The way you are beginning, the way your choice of the words, the expertise that you have in your language, your handwriting, the kind of pictures, the kind of paragraph that you are putting. So don't worry. 1,000 people, 10,000 people, if they are writing with the same subject, you are special in your own way. It's as simple as it is. You have to have the absolute command over the concept. You should understand the question. And between understanding the question and presenting in the exam, there has to be a proper processing of the information that you have. All this would help, and hence you in UPSC anthropology will still be trending. That's called neo-lingo. Any advice for the beginners in anthropology? The advice is to begin. You begin? Because students might be asking, kuch pre-course preparation, should we have to do any pre-course preparation, if that is the question. I found it not really helpful, rather damaging, pre-course preparation. Because when tens of diverse topics are there in your syllabus, if at all you are picking up a book which is not really appealing for you, or randomly you ran into a topic which you did not understand, and the examples that are written there look to be uncultural for you. So if you are coming from a very traditional society and suddenly you see an anthropology book with LGBTQ kind of discussions, you are taken aback. What the hell I am doing? I am studying this subject now. What if my parents see this book? Kind of. They may form opinions about me. So you said it is okay, let me go back to my engineering subject. I will struggle with the subject, kind of a thing. So I don't want. Okay? Go with the stream. Trust in what is being said to you, and with that things will be fine. So there is no formal initiation ceremony to begin. There is nothing like an Upanayana. After that you would start with your anthropology kind of a thing. You can directly start off with studying the subject. Ye acha hai. You have to answer me this question. What is the role of a teacher? Can anthropology be prepared by self-study? You can perhaps, Utkarsh Bajpai. You can study by yourself, taking the books, writing the subject, note whatsoever. Only thing is you should have a couple of years with you. Because if you are trying to do all by yourself, I see that if it is self-study, I see it truly as a self-study. ऐसा नहीं कि किसी का material उठा के पढ़े, ये नहीं. That is not self-study. If you call it a self-study, meaning that from the scratch you are doing by yourself, understanding of the concepts is something that takes time, and that's how you can do it, provided you have time with you. And the role of the teacher is to rather show you the right way, what to do, what not to do, mostly what not to do. सिर्फ यही नहीं है कि क्या पढ़ना है, क्या attempt करना है. You are also to know what are the mistakes that you should avoid, kind of things. I think that is where the teacher's role is there. And Vishwesh, can we read 12th Kerala NCRT? You may or may not mandatory, sir. If you feel that you should read, you read. If you have decided to read, you will anyway read. And so when it comes to focus areas, always try to go by the marks awarded for that particular component in your syllabus. And so you know pretty well that there are things like, applied physical anthropology, chapters 10, 11 and 12. These are very sought after questions. You mandatorily have to do them. Evolution studies in man. Evolution studies, both biological evolution and cultural evolution. From here also questions come very fondly. They are given fondly by the UPSC. There's a lot of fossil and archaeological things here. So this is one that is mandatory for you. So you will have to choose, out of these topics, whichever are high scoring, you try to spend good lot of time on them. Like ecological studies are there, or maybe perhaps nutritional studies are there, where from questions actually come very often. So you'll have to know which are most often asked questions and areas. Those you are not supposed to neglect. and from year to year, if certain things are important, trying to focus on them. But overall understanding of the subject is very important. Pick up any concept in your syllabus, you should be able to generate an answer. That skill should be there because you have compulsory questions also. To answer the compulsory questions, the overall general understanding of the syllabus is mandatory. And when it comes to combinations, there are certain areas that have to be done in combination. So let us see a bit about it. This will also help me establish the fact that combining paper 1 and 2 is important. Secondly, combining anthropological thought with all other areas of your syllabus is important. Socio-cultural anthropology, SC stands for socio-cultural. Socio-cultural anthropology, archaeology, or physical anthropology, or even tribal anthropology, Indian social anthropology, meaning all the rest of the syllabus have to be combined, or you have to use anthropological thought in every other area. Now, in order to establish this, paper 1 and 2 have to be brought in together. Let me take you forth. Can I go? Can I go? This is one area which one cannot neglect at all. We have counted the number of marks so many times. In some years, 175 marks out of 500. I mean, that's more than awesome actually. So, you have to be really studying prehistory. We will have to see a combination of India and the world. Archaeology is where India and world have to be brought together. The only grouse I have with UPSC is that we do not have practical paper in the optional subject. I wish we could have had practical paper. In all the optional subjects, actually, they should introduce practical paper. That would really do that magic of understanding. And then in that proper environment of UPSC, if they conduct the practical exam, don't know. I could have taken you to the digs, you could have dug, and we could have spoken to our ancestors, several of them. Not all of them belong to Homo sapiens. Some of them are our ancestors. Maybe we would get an opportunity to talk to our ancestors. But then you see this particular topic is there in paper 1 and 2 also. What we generally do is we have to understand a global aspect of archaeology. And we should see to figure out whether we have any difference when compared to a global archaeology. See, both in paper 1 and 2, you have all those lithic ages mentioned, like Paleo, Meso, Neo, etc. And even in Indian archaeology, it is mentioned. We'll have to figure out what problems we have. Are we not similar to European archaeology or African archaeology? Do we have any weakness or do we have any strengths when compared to them? So whenever there are questions asked, there have to be a comparative account, especially when you are writing in paper 2. Global comparisons become mandatory. And when you are writing in paper 1, examiner would appreciate if you are bringing examples from paper 2. So this is where, if at all you are not doing from the other paper, there is a gap in the understanding itself. I am not talking about marks. When your understanding is incomplete, you will not be able to get marks also. And it is such an interesting field that we try to understand how different, say, there is a Mesolithic cultural age in Europe, Mesolithic in West Asia, Mesolithic in India, and UPSC, the way they have been asking questions, we try to compare, and it is so interesting that all the populations across the world, what was happening, that everybody was moving from a low specialized lithic age to a highly specialized lithic age. So everybody is having paleo with those branches, and then meso, and then Neolithic, and then the other ages. How is it really possible that the entire globe was having all these kinds of similar cultural ages when people were not meeting one another? You're following what I'm saying? I mean, that looks to be really incredible. Somebody sitting in the southern tip of Africa was producing same kind of a tool which you sitting in the Narmada basin are producing, without any kind of a communication network. And this is something that we will have to, and then in that comparison, which thinkers were involved, who were actually instrumental in bringing the evidences. See, when we read archaeology, we try to remember a handful of names, 10, 15 names. For us, that name is important for this particular topic, and kind of. Say, for example, burial methods are there. H.D. Sankalia studied in these sites. For us, from that 1 mark will come. I mean, we are happy. But in order to give us that 1 mark, how much Sankalia struggled? That we don't recognize. Because Sankalia was lucky enough to get those evidences. How many such archaeologists were there who spent their entire life in the digs, not getting anything? These are all unsung heroes, and we don't talk about them. So we have to understand that side also. It's like, just aapka exam ho gaya. A handful of people, 500 or 700, cleared the exam based on whatever. Baki jo humanity hai, which was also putting the same kind of an effort, who could not make it through the exam. These are all unsung heroes. They also put up their effort. And news and media, these are classic abnormalities of modern world. This abnormal institution of media tries to focus at these 500 or 700 people. And my pain here is, you are not simply talking about 500 or 700 who cleared. You want everybody to be rank 1 only. So he asks, what's your rank? Aapne bataya 525. Acha, theek hai. There is the other person sitting. He asks, what is the rank? 10th rank. Fir camera udhar ghumayega. I mean, kind of, you have to understand that the moment you have chosen UPSC, to write UPSC, you are a different flock. You have already achieved something. Because the thought has come. You fellow, you did not think about the exam. And you are trying to judge people कि 510 से बड़ा है. That's why I told one of the one of the media persons, I told that though I know it's alive, but वो तो recording में जाएगा. So I told him कि उसका 525 वाला नंबर मत देखो आप. Definitely the person will get into taxation department. They can come to your media office. That is more important, you see. All these are the services that can touch any part of your life. They can influence any part of your life. So ऐसा है, ठीक है? So those unsung heroes we would be looking at. Archaeology is filled with so many of them. We also have to look at people who gave up their lives in fight for particular causes. There are anthropologists who fought for the rights of gorillas. We are not talking about human rights. We are talking about gorilla rights, animal rights. Young people gave up their lives. They were being attacked by the kind of goons and the people who are smugglers. And the young female anthropologists, they gave their lives in parts of Africa. I mean, these are the kind of questions, and we see what made these people go that extra mile. give up their life in the human society and spend so much of time in the company of the gorillas and chimpanzees, kind of. Maybe they are better off. They deserve us more than the humans, kind of. Yeah, this is archaeology where a combination is always necessary. And you have the physical anthropology, topics like the races. So, the entire globe filled with so many colors. You look at this, symbolically presenting with that black color out there, one of the earliest pictures of racial differences across the world created by anthropologists. Don't think that anthropologists are saints. They are much worse racists. At least the early anthropologists, highly racist people. And the later thinkers started to question, why should we go for racism? Let us come out of racism. Let us be humanistic, kind of stuff. These are the kind of questions, sir. You can see your syllabus 9.5 in paper 1. And this can be used in chapter 2, chapter 6 in paper 2. These are interconnected ones. So while you are presenting your information in the answers also, you are not supposed to segregate. Say I am writing paper 1, I will not get information from paper 2. Don't do that. Examiner is looking for a comprehensive understanding, comprehensive presentation of the content. So they have given up this typical way of asking questions, paper 1 related stuff only in paper 1 and paper 2 related stuff only in paper 2. That is also gradually being given up. So we will have to have a comprehensive overall understanding. So some other topics also I will try to show you. I think this looks good. Discrimination is not simply skin deep, and it is much more. Which color you like? Nakenduku master. There are the others. This is called digital anthropology. We have a new sub-discipline coming up called digital anthropology. So anthropological theory now is coming up with several newer variants. This is one. What exactly is digital anthropology? We have design anthropology also. I think before batch there was one student from computer science, and he worked in the coding, etc. for a long time, and suddenly something happened to him. He gave up and he started working on design anthropology. He said, I want to get the basics here so that I can understand what is being taught in the university, kind of. So we are here not simply to teach for UPSC. Agar aapko kuch aur karna hai, I am much more there for. In the Klinefelter syndrome, you see more and more X chromosomes getting added, sir. The more or the X chromosomes, the extreme it would become. Puja. Puja, the questions are already given, ma. I was mentioning those questions for the important areas for the upcoming main exam. So those are already released, you can get. Kisi aur ka question tha, Mr. Kiran had asked your strengths, why we choose only Sosin ma'am? Because you are destined. You ask your seniors, they will tell you. Adotanta judu bhajana, adi uddu manaki. So basically here to take up the subject in the best possible way, sir. It's like I owning your cause of UPSC. Aur kuch strengths janna hai to personally baat karo, I will display. Even if I study a few topics, the retaining of the data is very low at the end of the month. How am I to overcome this issue? Mr. Radhakrishna, it is repeated reading and writing. There is no shortcut. And then in order to check whether you are remembering or not, keep taking questions from the previous exams and keep writing, keep trying them. And फिर से पूछ लिया ये लड़का same question. ठीक है. So those questions, Pooja, you can actually, I know, text to the office. They will send you a link. From there, आप देख सकते हो questions. Please throw some light on requirement of diagrams in anthropology. Surely. These are some of the new things coming up, sir. So the kind of machine attachments that are getting attached to your bodies, partially getting converted into machines, and how exactly we are turning into machine culture. No? When we speak of everything, machine language, artificial intelligence and all that stuff, we are actually talking to another person. So your Siri is another person. You are conversing with her, and you are telling your needs to her, and she is fulfilling your needs. As somebody said, it's very rarity to have a female that listens and that obeys the orders of the man. So Siri is one such person. And so basically, in things like artificial intelligence, etc., we are interacting with an altogether different culture, and that's where we will be trying to look at it. So that's one very interesting field, and that's what you're becoming. You know? Right now you are carrying your bag and going, and later you'll become that. You'll become a cyborg or cyborg, whatever you call. And I love this stage only. I mean, so beautifully when you are standing, your hands are touching the ground, kind of, and you are walking with that gait, bent posture. We'll see. This is another important area, sir, genetic anthropology. There are several people. This is the contemporary writer, Edward Leibov, American Anthropological Association. So what one should be doing is trying to take inputs from the contemporary anthropologists in the field who are doing field work, who are applying the things from the basic concepts of the discipline. So this year I'm expecting a question on the concepts and the research that was done by this man. And look at that. Genetic anthropology for him is something that is really important to understand what makes humans. So man, according to him, is something that is built from inside and something that is built from outside. You are a combination of what you are from inside and outside. He has been writing on the interconnection between the genetic matter and the nurturing of the individuals through culture. So we would see in the nature-nurture studies. Pratyush, you can get the questions from the website link. They are there for all the students. You can check through those questions. If at all you have not prepared on them, you can prepare. That will really be of great help to you. This is one other topic. If at all you are writing the exam this year, business and anthropology, we call it business anthropology. Several write-ups of this kind are emerging these days. And neogenetics, this is one other topic we will be introducing for your batch, anthropology and new genetics. You are actually the result of your genetic matter. You are trying to come out with all those characteristics. So we would have several such things to combine and write. So in the nature-nurture studies, what you do as a psychological anthropologist, you are actually trying to compare your culture and genetic capabilities. Or for that matter, if there are questions on evolution of man, we should definitely be bringing Darwin into our discussion so that we see the application of Darwin in social and cultural milieu in the subject. So at every place we see a combination to come up. And we have several topics like that. We have demography, census related stuff. So if you look at chapter 11 in paper 1, that talks about demography, theories of demography, and that you can go to chapter 2 where you have Indian population, structure of Indian population, and what are the factors resulting in change of Indian population. Did you notice that? Chapter 11 in paper 1, you have demographic theories and concepts related to demography. And then in chapter 2 of paper 2, you have Indian population related information. So what generally happens is the concepts you are learning here in paper 1 and you are trying to apply in paper 2 for a clearer, much broader application and understand. So that is, I think, the one I wanted to talk about. Any questions? So Priya, when will this meeting end? Whenever you want me to end. Ji sir. Not in the first person. Say for example, there was a caste atrocity. You committed an atrocity. Don't write. No. It is observed. What I have observed, no. It is observed.
Ma'am, according to my senior's experience, it's becoming tough to understand the questions itself in anthropology, and they are linking different topics in the question. How to handle it?
Your learning should be good. If your concepts are clear, understanding would be good. You also might have spoken to some seniors. There is a general comment. मैम के questions जो होते हैं exam में, they are tougher than UPSC questions. So I try to see to it that you prepare at a level that is higher than UPSC, so that UPSC looks small for you. Conceptual understanding ठीक नहीं है, तो and it is not something that is static. When things are changing, you have to change the way you are learning. You have to keep applying to the situations. ठीक है. आज जो टर्म्स आपने पढ़ा यहाँ पर, whatever design anthropology, business and anthropology, I mean only a few of them. You go and ask them, do they study them? ठीक है. और जनरली क्या होता है ना, if you are not in a position to handle something, you blame it on the subject. You blame it on UPSC. So UPSC जानबूझ के कर रहा है. It is trying to eliminate. It is trying to scale down. ऐसा नहीं है. When subject goes on changing, you will have to evolve. You will have to apply. In fact, I am looking for many more application-based questions. Because if you see the global anthropology, it has gone way beyond your syllabus. So my expectation is that UPSC should be much more serious in changing the syllabus and upgrading it, incorporating the latest content. If not directly, at least in the exam if they are doing, students and teachers both are alert. Teachers have to be more alert. They were not there before. In fact, Cyborg Anthropology, she had started talking about it somewhere in 2011, 12, etc. Now there is one lady, उनका नाम मैं बताऊंगी before we close today, if I get there. I will tell. आएगा. So questions like these can actually be there in your syllabus. as applications. और बताइए. సార్ గుర్తొస్తా చెప్తా రావట్లేదు. Any more questions? Do anthropology syllabus for UPSC keep changing? अभी तक तो नहीं sir. I mean not so frequently. That's what I was telling कि change करो करके. But questions are getting better and better. If you are from zoology, if the syllabus looks familiar, that's a time of celebration, Kiran. But anthropology is not zoology. It is application of the science in social situations. So if you are reading Klinefelter, you are not focusing exclusively on biology of Klinefelter. You would see what are the cultural reasons because of which this is happening, or what are the cultural solutions, or how people are looking at these people with the kind of syndromes. Is there any possible evolution from the current monkeys to the human form? अभी humans तो आ गए ना, so देखना पड़ेगा. I mean, evolution is a continuous process. Where the current monkeys will go, only future can tell us. Is Ember and Ember a must read for completely new student? Not at all. I am of late suggesting Miller and Wees instead of Ember, if at all you would want to read Miller and Wees. WEITZ. Which parts in paper 1 and 2 can be preferred for maximum score? It is once again a personal thing, Dharampreet, which is a more preferred thing for maximum score. Some people may do it good with Indian society, some people might do good with tribal anthropology. So it is based on where you are more comfortable in your expertise. So there is no one single solution for that. You will have to identify your stronger areas. Kiran, about these earliest life forms, etc., that is a philosophical discussion we will be taking up sometime in the class. यहाँ पर तो how the microbe had emerged without an ancestor, that philosophical discussion right now we are not taking, primarily because of lack of this in the syllabus. Otherwise we will take it philosophically in one of our classes. That is where we try to prove that yes, there was a supernatural power that was existing. I gave the answer also. And Hanji sir. Sir. हाँ, how to? हाँ, जैसा कि अभी देखिए, randomly I am picking up linguistic anthropology है, applied linguistic anthropology माने whatever branches are there in linguistic anthropology, so structural linguistics, historical linguistics, ऐसे चीज़ हैं. These will help us understand. Say historical linguistics is there. It tries to explain to us the linkages between populations that are separated by huge land masses. Say for example, a population in northeastern region might be having similarity with a language that is spoken in Andaman Islands. I mean, this looks like a surprise. Or somebody who is in the northwestern province in Afghanistan might be having similarity in the dialect or speech with some of the deep Deccan languages. So this actually tries to establish a connect. So in historical linguistics, by the language comparisons, we would try to understand migration of populations. Or there are certain ways of, in administration, when you are allocated to a particular zone, particular state for that matter, you are made to learn the language of that particular region, so that in an administration you are going to do better. So when we are speaking of this is the application of linguistic studies or anthropology. Okay. Or maybe perhaps there are several tribal languages that do not have a script. One challenge that is adopted by linguistic anthropologists is to give them a script. Just a Gond script hai. So these are some of the examples. So based on the subcomponents in each of the main branches of anthropology, we will try to identify what was actually done, what can be done. Got my point? Or some other questions here. Which mode is preferable, online or offline? I leave it to you, Supriya. It depends on your comfort. Agar aapko during the COVID time you got used to staying at home relaxedly from the couch, you are learning, then I think, or maybe you are not in a position to travel to this part of the country, maybe perhaps you prefer online. But I love you if you are there in the offline, for my own satisfaction, and you are physically there. So, and Sheikh Rahman, which plays a major role, static or dynamic? Both are important, sir. First of all, you will have to understand the core concepts. If your core concepts are not clear, running behind current affairs, that doesn't help you. Diagram requirement, I am sorry, I forgot. Diagram requirement. Diagrams can be of different types. Okay? One kind of a picture could be the maps that you will have to draw, India map or Africa map. For questions like, suppose distribution of tribal populations, in India, distribution of pastoral communities in India. When he says distribution, you will have to know in which place which communities are there. It makes sense if you draw a map and try to show. Or maybe you are talking about Indus Valley civilizational sites, so it makes good effort if at all you are drawing a picture and showing the sites. Ye ek ho gaya. If at all you are writing an answer in archaeology, the tool based question has come, tools you will have to draw, that is mandatory. Or you have to know how different you are when compared to, say, a Neanderthal man. You will have to draw the skull of yourself and his skull. I mean, how to draw the skull we will see in the class. And wherever necessary, flowcharts can come, and maybe tables where necessary you can incorporate. That is one more. Kesari, you can actually approach our office will help you with the batch. और बताइए सर. हाँ जी सर. You wait for some time. No, that's what I am telling. That is a continuous process that I have been doing for a long time. Okay? Based on what was found in the newspapers, journals today, I would be identifying certain areas of importance for a general reader of anthropology and also for the UPSC students. Okay? Now when I am giving those questions, the questions are based on the developments on that particular day. Sometimes from the core of developments of that day or certain offbeat kind of things. But in your case, suppose you have just started preparation, don't try to divert your attention and do stuff. Learn a bit of subject, then you go back and start to see. Because otherwise the purpose of your preparation, the purpose of being here is defeated. You should not try to, spend the time that you have on such a thing which actually would be in a much more systematic way be done in the classroom later. Otherwise I'm useless. So you should respect my presence also. You leave that job to me. Once those areas are done, then you can go back and attempt the question. Ji sir.
What factors should we consider in order to say some topic is important in view of exam?
మళ్ళీ చెప్ప ఏదో చదువుతుంది సారీ చెప్పండి.
Like what factors should we consider in order to say some topic is important in the view of exam?
Is this as a student or as a teacher?
Exam,
Is it as a teacher or a student? My question was very much pertinent. As a student, meaning don't do much of labor. You may perhaps stick to what is being published in certain journals, and based on the journals you can get a clue. But then if it is a teacher, we do a lot of exercise. So if you want to be a teacher, you tell me, I will train you in that. And can I call it a day? और कुछ है? How about your GS? It is done. So it depends on how much percentage is already done. ठीक है. As far as your optional is concerned, everything said and done, about 4 months of class you would be doing, half a month to 1 month of post-course exams will be there, so 5 months you would take with you and come. So we are in the month of July, so I think by December, by November you would be done. So, I mean, as far as the preparation of the optional is concerned. And after that you can refine, you can pretty much do. People actually start in December also, but I don't suggest December. That falls into your prelim zone. We don't advise like that. Praveen, क्या करें Praveen? Praveen says, I am from Delhi, I want to take your offline, but my parents will not allow me to go so far. Explain करो, otherwise I am there in the online mode. या फिर I will talk to your parents, ask them to send you here. That job can also be done. Tanzeel Rahman from Jammu, I am difficult to come. Only option. No major disadvantage if you weigh the distance, but we love to have you here. Hyderabadis are very good in hospitality. We have the best of biryani. आपके कश्मीरी पुलाव से, कश्मीरी बिरयानी से बहुत अच्छी बिरयानी हम इधर सर्व करते हैं. The major disadvantage in not coming in the offline is missing the biryani. Jokes apart, we try to give the maximum in the service in the online mode also. Basic things, Tanzeel, our team will explain to you. We have been doing live doubts clarification sessions also, generally in the afternoon slots between 2 and 4. So that disadvantage is also taken care. And personally also you can get to ask questions and things like that. So I'll try to give my best. बाकी आप decide कीजिएगा. What topic after society? After society I will do thought. Then और अच्छा लगता है, we had a student in the valley. He was posted in the valley, attending class in the bunker. तो अच्छा लगता सुन करके. You are the only link for me between the humanity and myself here. That's what he said once. So, I mean, if we are filling their empty spaces and lonely times, what more? So, Pratyush, I told, after society I will be doing thought. Sir, Am I allowed to go? In the online mode also, thank you so much everybody for joining. And any more queries, you can connect to me through the phone or whatever means. And thank you all for coming, taking out your Saturday. Saturday is really a very important sacrifice, you know. Weekend spending in the classroom is na photo na, na photo na, na photo na. I'll give a pose, don't worry. So, kind of. So I was saying, Saturday is very, very important that you have sacrificed it. Thank you so much. And those of you who walked in for the first time, I would like to meet you downstairs. You meet me, and then thank you all, boys and girls.